Claire here, and today we're going to talk about letting go and surrender. Now, a lot of people have written into us and said that they really struggle with this, that they find they're stressed out, they're trying to control things, and they really want to learn how to go with the flow of life and trust and surrender so that they feel better and life works out better for them. So this is a topic that I live constantly because I'm always living in the unknown and out on the edge, which we do when we're following our heart and living from our souls, and I'm a person that does that. So I have to practice the art of letting go and surrender quite a bit. And so I have 5 tips for you that I hope will be really helpful, and ways that you can work with yourself so that your life starts to feel more smooth and easy and you're not always fighting and going against the grain. Now, when we talk about the art of letting go and surrender, this can apply to all kinds of things. You could be in a crisis situation where you're losing your home or you're running out of money, and it can be a really serious thing and you're having trouble going through that process and trusting and letting go. But it can also apply to things that we want to manifest that maybe aren't happening as fast, and things that just in everyday life, the little stuff that we're constantly resisting. And so what I have to say today kind of covers, it works in all those areas. Okay, so the first tip that I have is I want for you to observe yourself when you are not in the flow of life, when you realize, when you can stop and realize that, hey, I'm trying to control things, my ego is pushing and forcing, I'm feeling stressed. The first thing we can do is to acknowledge that, because what is happening is that you have fallen asleep. And I find myself falling asleep all the time. You have fallen unconscious. You have forgotten who you are. And you are listening to the ego and the thoughts in your head and the mind, and you're letting it run your life. And the ego, it wants to control everything. It has an idea of what should happen and when it should happen and how it should happen. And it wants to control all outcomes. And so the first way we can stop it is by observing that that has taken over. And then the next thing that you want to do is connect to your soul. Go ahead and take some meditation time to align to your soul, because here's the thing, the ego believes that it's separate. And the truth is, you are one with all that is. And when we understand that we are one with all that is, then we can join the flow. We are the flow of life. It's not something separate from you. It's something that you join into, and it is the flow of your very being. And now you can feel loved, supported, connected to everything, because you are. And you are the movement and the flow of life itself. And so we need to observe the ego and what it's doing, and then once we're aware of that, we can go in, connect with the soul, and align to the truth of our being. And being in that state feels wonderful. It realigns you, it helps you trust, it helps you let go, it makes you want to surrender because it feels so good. So the second tip that I want to talk to you about, the ego always thinks of itself as a little me, and this little me, I have to take care of me, and I have to protect me, and I have to do things to take care of this little me that I am. So what I'd like you to do that will help you see the truth and help kind of dismantle the power of this ego that is operating in your life is to kind of review over some of the defining moments in your life, the major crossroads, the real tough crises that you've had to make it through, and the tragedies, as well as even the good things that have happened to you. And I can guarantee you that what you will notice is that there was always a larger hand and a larger force at work in your life. So you will see how the larger hand, how there's been a larger force that has always taken care of you. The personality you and the ego you usually did 1 or 2 steps to make something work out. And there was a larger force that came in and brought in the right people, or brought the money in the mail, or brought you to the right place, or made somebody hire you so you could get the job. It's not in your control. And the ego has the illusion that it's in control, that it does all of that stuff. And the funny thing is, the ego and the mind are not even designed for that. The ego can only perceive such a small amount of reality is probably not even reality. We can see how limited that ego is and how little it really does to run your life. And then it helps you to trust and surrender again, because you know everything you have been through, good or bad, it's always worked out. It's always millions of little details and things were taken care of that you could never have imagined. This is how it is in life. And the ego will try to trick you, and it thinks that it's done it all. But when you look at it, you can tell that it hasn't. I have looked over my life and seen so many miracles. You know, for instance, one time I was out of a job and almost out of money, and my only guidance was to call a friend and ask her to lunch. That's all I did. And she happened to know somebody right in the nick of time who needed help, and it was a really awesome work that I would have loved. I would never have thought of that work. And that person, because she knew my friend, hired me immediately, and the money started coming in. You know, that is so far beyond my control. The only thing I did was make a phone call to go have lunch with a friend. So when we look at our lives like that, it really helps steep us in the knowingness that there is a much, much larger power at work in our life, and that it's okay to surrender to it and to trust it and to flow and to allow it to unfold our lives, and that it's okay to let go of the ego's idea of control. So it's a really powerful process if you can take some time to do that. Now, the third tip that I have is, obviously when we're not surrendering and able to let go, we're living in the ego, and the ego always lives in the past or the future. So this is an excellent time to again observe your consciousness. So as you are observing yourself, let's say you're fearing something that's going to happen in the future, then ask yourself, what would a person have to believe to be fearful of this? So let's say I'm afraid that I can't pay my bills next month. Then that would mean that I'm living in a state of lack, that I believe money runs out, that I believe that there's not enough. There's all kinds of thoughts and beliefs attached to this. And this is the perfect time to kind of observe the contents of your consciousness and start weeding those things out and replacing them with powerful thoughts. And so again, this helps us uncover things that are blocking us and stopping us from trusting life and going with the flow. We can work with those things as long as we can use the ego and all these thoughts that are going through us to identify the places where we don't believe that life supports us, where we don't believe that we're loved, where we don't believe that we're abundant. Also on this topic, another way that I like to use this observation as like a sounding bell or a signpost that says if I'm living in the past or the future, it means it's reminding me to stop and live in the moment. And I talk about living in the moment all the time, but living in the moment for me has been the cure-all for everything, everything, every challenge that I've ever had. Whenever I return to the moment, all is well. I'm always taken care of. The moment is fine. Things always work out. And it puts you back to living in the moment. When we're living in the moment, we're realigning to our soul. And the ego is kind of pushed out and dissolved at that point. You are here now, you're in the moment. You can feel the aliveness. Your soul can start to emerge. And then your entire way of being changes, and your vibration changes. And you're living in a much better state of being, which is more attractive to manifesting what you want. Okay, the fourth thing, and here's what I do when things are really intense and I'm super scared of the future and I can't let go and I can't surrender, I'm really struggling with that. I tell myself, okay, give yourself 1 week to live only in the moment, and the next week I will think about these problems and I will deal with it. But just for 1 week, I'm going to let myself live in the moment and just let those go. Because right now everything's fine. Now it might sound silly, but this practice has been so helpful to me. And so what happens is I become happy, I'm centered in my soul, I'm having fun, I'm relaxed, I'm feeling great, I do feel loved by the universe because in the now everything's always okay. And I live my entire week like that. So when the fearful voice will come, because it will come up throughout the week, it'll come back and say, oh my God, you need to quit living this week and you need to get back on solving your problems. It wants to try and figure it out. And it'll come back in and I'll just say, it's okay, it's being handled. I'm living this week in the moment and it's being handled. And I just tell that ego voice that. And then I'll even do affirmations. I am safe and loved and all is well. And one of my favorite affirmations is, divine love foresees everything and richly provides everything now. The perfect results of divine love now appear. I love that affirmation. So you can do affirmations when that voice comes back up and just say, nope, it's being handled, God's handling it. I'll deal with that next week, but this week I'm living in the now. And it's really, really a cool practice. Now what also happens in that is as you're living and you're having a great time and you're living in the now you're raising your vibration. Your vibration starts to raise and you are really magnetic and attractive to all manner of good. And this is what you want. You want your life to work out. You want to align to the flow of life so that you can surrender and trust and flow and everything works itself out. And so you're automatically, by living in the now and choosing, to enjoy it and be happy and just have fun, all of that good energy is being radiated out into the universe and you're going to start attracting really good stuff. It's one of the ways that the universe can help you because you've gotten out of your own way. When the ego's involved and it's trying to figure it out and blah, 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 and it's putting all that negativity in there, then it's blocking the universe from being able to help you. And this way, you're just living in the moment and allowing the universe to help you and unfold life as it will. Now, what usually happens to me is I'll get through that week and then my mind will have to jump in and my ego and, okay, let's solve these problems. And so I'll do that for about a day or two until I get stressed and sick of it and upset. And then it's like, I'm going to go back to living in the now again. And I'll say, okay, and I'll do it again. For this week, I'm going to live in the now. And a lot of the times, if things just work out. It's never come to a point where I've died or anything bad's happened. So it's just really cool. You might find that you want to keep extending it and keep extending it until it becomes a habit in your life. And then the fifth thing is make sure that even, as you're living in this now moment and living every day in the now for that week or whatever, that you always sit down every morning and just ask for guidance. Is there something that you want me to do regarding this issue? And just sit quiet for a few minutes and listen. Now, you might get an answer right then and there to do something. By all means, act on every bit of guidance or intuition that you have. That is another way how spirit and life can work through us. We have to take some action and it will tell us what to take, and it will be the easiest and most effective thing if we listen to it. We're not wasting time with the ego coming up with its ideas of what we should do and putting out 10 resumes when all we needed to do was listen to spirit and call a friend and send one resume and get a job, you know what I mean? So but make sure that you do that. Now, you might not have any guidance for several days, or you might get guidance that has nothing to do with your issue, but still act on it. But always check in every day and just stay open throughout the day. You could ask for it, nothing comes. 5 hours later, you're driving and, I need to write this letter to somebody or whatever, and make sure to act on it. So those are my 5 tips, and I really know, for me personally, they've helped me a lot. But it does take some focus and some discipline and some commitment to doing it. But after a while, it does start to become a habit, and you will find that you're stressing less, you're much more able to go with the flow, trust the process of life. You know that you're safe, and you're loved, and you're cared for, and you're always provided for by a much larger force than what you can do alone. It comes through everything, invisible and visible. It comes through everything. I really hope that these things are helpful to you. And, I want to share a quote before I leave that I really love, and it's so true. When things don't work out as expected, and most of the time they don't, sometimes it's the stuff that happens instead that's the good stuff. And that's exactly what I have found. That's exactly how I feel. When we can get the ego out of the way and we can relax and flow, so much more good than we could ever imagine as a small little me. So again, I hope this really helps. So thank you, and we'll see you next time.